All right, and we are back with the special Centurion, is that even a fucking word? Century podcast. It's podcast 100, and I have decided to celebrate by bringing my... God, he's many things to me. He's my brother, he's my trainer, he's my business partner now with the Mastermind we're doing. Mr. Jeremy Scott Fitness is in the house.
Thank you for having me for this very special event here.
It is a very special event. And nobody knows yet, except, well, I guess if you read the title, you're going to know. But yeah, we're going to talk about some fun stuff that is more revolutionary in the aspect of a lot of our childhood. And we're going to talk about 80s and 90s nostalgia.
When I post about it, people love it, man. It doesn't matter what it is, because like anything, like your audience ages up with you, typically.
Totally.
So, and you sound like the old person then when you talk shit about these younger kids, but it's fun.
It is fun. And so Jeremy and I were talking a little bit, and I'm like, dude, I want you to come on, do my 100th podcast. So my podcast is structured a little bit different. I've got like a squirrel sort of syndrome within me where it's like I've got a good half hour, maybe a little bit more. And that's just kind of how mine are structured. Jeremy can talk to people for hours on end. So we're going to start this here and probably end it over at Jeremy's podcast at a later future date. But we're going to talk about some like specific stuff that I've kind of outlined here. But I wanted to ask you first, like, you grew up in Minnesota?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what was like the prime year for you when you started like really remembering stuff?
Probably, there's some stuff I go way back, but probably, I don't know, when you're like 7 or 8, maybe. There's some stuff maybe before, probably like late 80s. Almost the 90s.
Yeah, because I've got a decade. Well, I got about 9 years on you, so...
Yeah, so like, if there's a reference, like the first movie I ever went to, or like the only one my dad ever took me to, honestly, the first Batman.
Yeah, that's what you said.
1989.
And you've never seen Star Wars?
Not 1 second of one episode. No, but it's funny. My mom actually, I think this dude who makes your table, my mom messaged me the other day. She messaged you.
Yeah.
It's like, is it the same guy?
I think so.
It looked like the same table.
Yeah.
And she sent it to you, and you're like, "Oh, send it to Jeremy." And then she's like, "He's never seen an episode." And Dave, who's my mom's husband, is like, "No, he's seen a minute." I'm like, "No, I have not seen 1 second of one Star Wars, and neither has my wife."
That is crazy.
I know.
And it's only like a 9-year difference. Yeah. So when you were growing up, what were some of your favorite? I want to get into. Let's just start with movies, because that was kind of one of the subjects I wanted to get into. So, like, what were your like favorite action movies?
For obviously, like Batman is legit. If you remember, like Masters of the Universe, which is like the Dolph Lundgren version.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, obviously all the Rocky stuff. Yeah, for sure. We're talking Predator. Running Man, anything with Jean-Claude Van Damme, pretty much too. Like all of the
Bloodsport.
Yeah. Oh, dude, Bloodsport was the shit. Double Impact, Time Cop, Lionheart, you name it.
Was that your boy?
Oh yeah. It's crazy because my mom like dated this dude for a long time. And like, again, you're young, right? And so like, he looked like Van Damme to me because he was like kind of jacked. He had the slick back black hair. I'm like, and so like, you watch these dudes, like obviously Arnold, Bruce Willis, Die Hard, Batman, like these dudes, that's the dudes you grew up on. Right. So maybe that's why I secretly like, well, I want to be shredded or I want to be Jack. And these guys are fucking badass. And that's pretty much all I watched like as a kid. Obviously like Uncle Buck and things like that. But a lot of the action stuff.
Did you get into like the roles yourself? Like, would you go out and watch the movie, like the Rocky movie, and then like go in your garage or whatever and just start pumping weights and shit?
When I'm young, like I don't know how it is anymore with TV, but I think it was like TNT would play the Rockies.
That's right.
Like all the fucking time. And it'd be obviously Rocky 4. He goes over to Russia, he's training for Drago, and he's like running in the snow, and he's just a badass. If you don't get motivated by watching that Rocky montage of training, like you'll never be fit. Like you just quit. Fitness is not for you. You don't want to work out, because everybody should be motivated by that. So I would watch that as like an 8-year-old kid, and in Minnesota, it's the same conditions. You go outside and you run for about 3 minutes, and you're like, this sucks, dude. I'm freezing my ass off. And you go back inside, but you would do your sit-ups and push-ups in your house, and you looked at that as like a motivating thing, even though they're all larger than life, from Stallone to Arnold and everybody else.
Dude, so I'm looking at Stallone, and it's like, it was the one montage where he has like this full beard,
yes,
and he's got the wheelbarrow, and he's like pushing that thing, and then he goes out in the snow. Remember the Secret Service agents, or the Russian KGB?
They're like his babysitters,
yeah,
and he loses them. Actually, yeah. Oh, dude, like still, like to this day, I'm a 40-year-old man. Like I'll still watch that and like, man, this is badass.
It is. It's great. Out of those action stars to date, from what you see just on the internet or whatever, who do you think's held it the best over the course of time? Because isn't it kind of a little bit depressing for you? I know it is for me. Like I look at Stallone now, maybe not so much Stallone, but I look at Schwarzenegger, I look at Bruce Willis, what he's going through. I see all like my heroes like as a kid, and it's like, fuck, everybody gets old.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about that the other day because even like Steven Seagal, right?
Yeah.
Like when he's Mason Storm, and you're like, he's just a fucking badass. And now, no offense to him, you see him, we're never going to be what we were. It's just this reality. Like even I think Arnold has an interview that's recent where he's like, I hate looking at myself.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't like, but you can't, you're talking about a level that's so high. It's like if you're Michael Jordan, LeBron James, you're not going to be that good forever. So I guess Van Damme looks pretty good still.
Yeah, it does.
So does Stallone does too. He's obviously bigger, enhanced than normal, but Van Damme still is like flexible and looks pretty shredded. And Dolph Lundgren too.
Drago, yeah, he looks good too. That's funny. Did you ever get into like Lethal Weapon?
Oh yeah. We watch those too. Like again, Mel Gibson was a badass too.
Totally.
Because again, you're talking Mad Max.
Yeah.
Like the original. And Danny Glover is also in the second Predator.
Yeah.
But he had Carl Weathers, bro.
Oh, Carl
like, dude,
Weathers.
Talk about like all time like dudes who just jacked and shredded, like Apollo Creed, like bro.
Carl Weathers is, I believe, in some of the Star Wars series now.
He's still fit too.
He's still fit. Yeah, he looks good. Those are all the big action stars. And then I really enjoyed comedies back in the 80s too. Like I loved it when, my dad took me to Ghostbusters. That was one of my favorite with Dan Aykroyd. And,
those are great.
That was the best. And like, I remember as a little kid, my grandmother took me to E.T.
That's all. I mean, I think people still watch that. I would imagine.
So. Yeah.
Or at least our era of time. It's like Home Alone. Like when I'm a kid, like that's badass. Like I'm like, Home Alone is the shit. Like I'm a little kid and he's a little kid, and I'm like, I guess that's why it was so popular. You can relate to it.
Probably so. Did you ever get into Indiana Jones?
Yeah, I like all those.
Okay.
Those are all legit. Those two, the Christmas Vacations, the National Lampoon stuff.
Yeah.
All awesome too. Anything with like John Candy, really?
Yeah.
I thought he was the shit.
So do you and Heather get into this mode like during the holidays? Do you kind of revert back to the older movies back like when you were a kid, if you're just kind of chilling and watching holiday specials and stuff like that? Or
Oh yeah, I mean like obviously she watches all this weird Hallmark shit.
Yeah.
And it's all the same movie every single time. It's the same story. They're terrible. But with that stuff, you can buy movies like on Prime, right? And like own the digital ones. And we watch Home Alone every year.
Yeah.
We have to. The Tim Allen, Santa Claus, we always watch those too.
Yeah,
like those are probably the two, and then obviously Christmas Vacation, like those are legit. Like those are probably the three we always go to. Then there's new stuff too, but it's Home Alone to me is the all time.
You watch Die Hard though.
Well, it's a Christmas movie.
It's a Christmas movie.
Yeah, we actually watched Die Hard like on Christmas Day.
That's good.
I mean, she doesn't like to do it as much as I do. I don't really give a shit. I'm like, this is what I'm gonna do. So
that's awesome. Oh, and Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
It's an all-time movie.
All-time best.
Yeah. I don't think that ever goes out of style. Like, I think, again, there's like music, right? Like, there's certain things, like, we've talked about this before, like Metallica.
Yeah.
They will play Enter the Sandman for 10,000 years. Like, as long as the earth is going and there's music, they will play that song and it will still bang. I think that is what, like, Home Alone is.
Yeah.
Like, there's certain things that I think we'll watch forever.
I think so too. I think, and when you look at comedy back in the 80s and the 90s, Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor and like all that stuff was just the best back then. And not that it's not good now, but I guess just as a kid, I just remember those, men and women being so iconic during that time because entertainment was just different. You didn't have like, you know what I'm saying? The instant gratification of seeing a whole bunch of different stuff. You just had these people that were just kind of looked at as gods in comedy.
Well, and I think like those two, it's like perfect timing. Like you say, like if it's Pryor or something, like even like Brewster's Millions, which is a great movie. And then Eddie with Raw and everything that they did. But the barrier for entry was so much harder. Like you had to, I don't want to say get lucky, but like get an agent or get on Johnny Carson or something had to happen, where now it's like you can turn on your phone and be talented and you can make it happen a lot easier. But there's also the sea of everything. So like when you were a kid, obviously in the 80s, you have probably, I don't know, 25 channels maybe, give or take, if that.
Maybe, yeah.
And of the 25, like half of them suck. So you have like such limited stuff, and you would go to Blockbuster or Videoland or wherever you would go, and here's the movies you can pick from. Now it's like I go on, Netflix is one of Netflix, Peacock, Hulu, Paramount. I'm like, what the fuck, dude? It's almost like paralysis by analysis. You can't even pick what to watch because there's so many things.
Yeah.
And so for that reason, there's still dudes who stick out like the Chappelles and those guys, but it's definitely different than it used to be.
And you talk about TV and like the channels, and I had this old Zenith TV, and it was color, but it was
like a wood box.
Yeah, it was like in a wood box, and you had the thing that go, that would click
the actual
to the
dial.
channels. Yeah, actual dial. Well, my grandparents had a big one, and when I was little, I was really horny, and
I like where this is going.
And my grandparents would go to bed, right? And I, for whatever reason, I had figured out that in between channels, if I just kind of put the mechanism in between channels, there would be like the Playboy channel, and you would kind of see for like a second some skin. You wouldn't. It would go shh, and I was like so resilient to like sit there right in front of the TV and try and see some skin and hope that my grandparents didn't wake up and like catch me in the middle of the night.
Well, that was like the world is changed differently. Like when you're a kid, then it's like if you see a Playboy, you're like, holy shit,
right?
It's a naked like lady in a magazine, and you're like freaking out. And now it's like you have access to everything on the internet. It's a wild, wild west.
Yeah,
definitely. No. It was a golden era of time for a lot of things.
Well, dude, you don't have kids, and I can tell you this much from my experience of having bringing my boys on at 9 and 11. The age of horniness. Two boys. It's like it's instant access to all of that stuff there, and people's like brains are like numb to it. It's like what?
Yeah, I'm thankful. I say it's like you're the last of like an era where I'm not so old. I don't understand technology. Obviously, I've built a business on the technology, but I didn't grow up with it. So my self-worth wasn't created off of the internet, and I didn't have access to all the things. So now, granted, like your kids at 15 are much smarter than I was or more educated because they had access to more information. However, there's something to be said about not having access to all those things and having to just, I guess, figure it the fuck out sometimes for yourself. So I just feel lucky that I grew up in this era in this time where you're like kind of in between.
Yeah.
Like you didn't miss the boat and you weren't born into it. You're like in this kind of perfect spot where you can use it for good. But knowing like you lived in a world for a long part of your life, for half my life, without it. There was no Google.
You were you being 9 years ahead of me, I think you were pretty much that generation that was like the last of the Mohicans.
Yeah.
100%. I don't know. I mean, Heather's a little bit younger than you. I don't know if maybe she had a little bit of that dribble effect, but
it's almost the same. It's like when I'm the last year of college, like the Facebook, is which they called it, is coming out, and it's only if you have a college email address. And so she is like a sophomore when I'm like a senior in college. So it's about the same time frame.
Yeah.
Like for reference for people who are obviously the old heads who listen, like computer wise, like I didn't have a computer at my house, I think until I was a junior or senior in high school.
Okay.
And it wasn't like anything cool. You're like asking Jeeves and shit,
right.
Or maybe playing like the Oregon Trail. Like it's not what you think it is. To download, something or a picture takes like a fucking hour.
Yeah.
And that's what we grew up in. And I think the next generation, then like kids learn how to use computer. Like we could learn how to use computer, like we type and shit, but a computer sucked.
We had typing class.
Yeah, but it wasn't like cool, right?
No.
Like when you got your cell phone, my first cell phone I was in college. I'm 18 years old.
Right.
And my dad's like, you never use this unless it's an emergency. You don't text anybody. You can just play Snake or T9 Word for people who are familiar with that. But it wasn't an iPhone and it wasn't fancy.
Did it look like this?
Bro, that's fancier than my first one was.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. No, my first one was like the Nokia.
Yeah.
It's just like bulletproof. It's like a brick. You can't break it. But this is old as fuck too.
Yeah, I just pulled out a Motorola flip phone, and what's funny is the phones back then, they had antennas. You can see the antennas missing, but you'd have to pull it out every time, and the darn thing would break all. So instead of like your screen breaking, the antennas would break on these phones or whatever, and the screens are so small, the texting and all that.
That's what I mean. Like, it wasn't, I guess the point is for people who, obviously older people listen to this, but younger kids, when you show them that, they couldn't imagine a world where you wait in line at the grocery store or the doctor's office and you're not just glued to this. There's a lot of good from it. Like, I'm thankful for the technology. It's awesome, but there's something to be said where you just go out, like for us, you get on your bike and go out, and in the summertime, my parents worked, bro. So like, I'd be gone from whatever time I got up, 7 a.m., 8 a.m. till fucking 6 at night.
Yeah.
There's no parental supervision.
Nothing.
Like, there is nobody making me lunch. There's nobody, like, I got a key to the house and that's it. And I'm just gone.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, obviously the world is a crazy place. I'm not saying do that for your kids, but I didn't feel like I was glued to something and had to check a screen for messages. And you're younger, but it, I don't know. I think a lot of us, we have access to it now. But if we could take pieces from then and go back, that's why people like try to escape their work or be in nature and do things. It's like, we're not glued to screens 24/7, 365.
No, my entertainment was the woods. I would literally take those movies that I watched, pretend like I was living in them. I would build forts with sticks and clay mud from the pond down by my house. I would get buckets of this clay mud, put it in between the sticks, and then I would put rocks, in them to make this. I made legitimate huts. Like, this is what I did all day. And then we would have these fights, bottom of the street against top of the street, because I lived on this, street that had a cul-de-sac and tons of kids in the neighborhood. I mean, it was the most ideal situation. It's almost like a Sandlot sort of situation. And, for whatever reason, top and bottom would go against each other. And we'd try to, blast, each other's forts, sneak through the woods and, figure out how to, fight each other. And I had this big stick, like huge stick. It was like one that I think my stepdad had used to, move the fire or something. And I called it Battle Boner. And everybody tried to.
I like the name a lot.
Battle Boner. Yeah, it was I might
amazing. Use it at home tonight.
Did you have a porn stash? Not mustache, a stash of magazines.
I never did. Like, my dad was never into that. But like my uncle Mike or somebody like would have it at his house, and then your buddy would have it, and then your buddy would steal one and have one. And so, we had one friend of ours. I'll keep his name off of this. He would make like his own like highlight reel magazine. So he would take like a normal, again, you guys, this is like 1992 or 1989. Like, he would take a notebook, like just a spiral notebook, and whatever he could take from like Playboys, he would cut them out and tape them into like one book. So he had like a master,
make his own,
like a master list. Yeah. And then, to be gross, we're all dudes. Like, you would print out a picture of like whoever, like Pamela Anderson or somebody, but it would take like 30 minutes to print out the picture. And if your mom or dad came home, you had to like kill the whole deal right off the bat, because it's like, it's printing. I don't think people understand, like, it's printing in color super slow.
Yeah.
And this is the dial-up shit. So if you're on the internet, like, your parents can't use the phone. So we'd have friends that would do that. Like, I was a poor kid, so we never had the technology or the things to do this. We were behind the game for sure.
Oh my gosh. All right. So what was your first concert?
The Up in Smoke tour.
Okay.
I probably was like 15 at the time, right? 15. So like, Up in Smoke tour is Dre, Snoop, Ice Cube, Eminem, Exhibit.
Was that the antithesis for like your love for hip hop and all that stuff now? I mean, were you always just kind of that sort of fan growing up?
Like, even like younger, like, I just thought it was, again, like, I was the kid, if you guys remember like Columbia House.
Yeah.
So Columbia House was this thing where they would send like a magazine to your house, and they had these like little stamps.
Yep.
And you would take the stamps out and you would put the stamps back in and say, send me these movies, we'll sign up for an account. And I would do that, and like, I would make up a fake name, like, Ron Mexico, and I would put our address, and I would get, so the movies like I would request, or like, even, and they did the same thing for CDs. So the first CDs that like I would get that I remember as a kid, Warren G. Regulate, Dr. Dre The Chronic, Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style, like Murder Was the Case. Like these are the ones that are like Too Short, like really graphic shit that basically a 9. I think I had my first CD player when I was 9 or 10, and I shouldn't have been listening to that stuff, but that's what I thought was cool because I would watch that. You know, like you watched it. Like I always thought gangster movies were cool. I always thought sports were cool. I always thought hip hop was cool. And so I'm 10 years old or 9 years old listening to Snoop and Dre.
Wow.
And so to this day, like it's just stuck with me.
Just stuck with you, yeah. I can relate. I mean, I have my Rat shirt on. I mean, you know, Rat, Van Halen, Motley Crue, Cinderella, Warrant, Winger, all that stuff. I was just like, it's great. And it had so much, like, people made so much fun of it. But for whatever reason, it just, you know, it excited me. Like when I would see MTV, you'd probably watch that. Were videos still a thing though? Like
100%.
Okay.
Like when I'm a kid, they start doing the real world later and doing shows, Beavis and Butthead, things like that. But it's literally just videos. Kurt Loder is on there, obviously, and Yo MTV Raps becomes a thing. So like now it's like you can see hip hop like at scale. It's becoming more mainstream, and I grew up on that all day.
So like even prior to that, it was just music videos all day, all long, and like you would see Aha, you would see Prince, like When Doves Cry, and so what that allowed was for a visualization for us to get a better taste for like other types of music, you know, because you would see kind of the storyline and the theatrics of it.
Oh yeah, like if I'm thinking like videos, Metallica obviously was crushing, like Soundgarden, Nirvana, like these guys were making real videos. Pearl Jam, Stone Temple Pilots, like that stuff was banging. Like when I'm young, and that's the stuff I still to this day like. I still like Pearl Jam. I still like Metallica. Yeah, like it's eternal.
And Halloween soundtrack.
I do. I mean, I do. It's. I grew up, dude. Did we not grow up in the greatest era of horror movies? Jason. Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers. I do. For the people listening, like the number one played song on my playlist on Spotify is the Michael Myers Halloween theme song, because sometimes I just don't want to deal with anything. I don't want to listen to a podcast. I don't want to hear music, and I just put that theme song on and I work out for like an hour to the same song over and over and over again.
I'll put the Rocky montage on, just the music.
Oh, it's fucking great, dude.
Yeah, it's amazing. I actually listened to Top Gun this morning. I got all into the Top Gun, you know, Playing with the Boys and
Top Gun,
Mighty Wings.
It's another one.
Yeah.
Great movie.
Yeah. It's so good. My first concert was either, I think it was U2 Rattle and Hum out here at ASU, like in 88, I think it was. And then Leonard Skinnard in Atlanta at Fulton County Stadium.
It's crazy how U2 still plays.
Still, yeah.
You know who Emily just went.
Did she?
To the Sphere.
Yeah.
In Vegas. Showed me the videos at my house the other day. It looks wild. She said you got to do it once.
Yeah.
She goes, don't sit in the front row. She said, but it looks wild. Like how that Sphere is. But she's like, U2 was still banging. Yeah,
no, good for those guys. I mean, so's Def Leppard and a few others for sure. What about like other types of music though? Did you get into, say, like some that come to mind that were really popular were like the Cars, Huey Lewis and the News, Men at Work, like stuff like that? Was that just a little bit before you?
Yeah, but if you say like because like Back to the Future, then you would hear it for sure. Like Phil Collins, like all that shit, like a lot of that. Again, it would usually come from like a movie or something. Or, you know what a lot of it is? It's like when we play all the 80s hits at our place now, it's because it was like playing in the garage, like at my house. Like my dad would have like the radio on. Because, again, I'm not saying radio isn't big anymore, but I don't listen to fucking radio.
It's not big anymore.
When I was a kid, dude, so what you would do, like for me, I remember I would take like a tape player, especially if it was on a movie. Like I remember like Above the Rim came out and the song Pain by Tupac was on, and it wasn't on the soundtrack. And so I would hold up the tape recorder to the TV to record the song, and it's staticky as fuck and it would suck. But if you did it on the radio, you could do it, but then the stupid DJ would start talking shit over the song and he would ruin it. Yeah. And so that's how we recorded music back then.
That's how I recorded music too. I had a cassette player inside the radio. Like it was called a boombox back then.
Yeah, because it'd be like a dual.
A dual. Yeah, exactly. And then I would wait. Like they would be like new Van Halen tune, you know, coming on within the hour, and I'd just sit there and I'd wait and I'd wait and wait. And then all of a sudden you would like get ready, and your fingers are right there by the record button, and then you'd hear like that first tone, and you'd hit it, and then that's how you would record all your music and get it all.
Well, yeah, because you couldn't listen to, if you found a song that you thought was amazing, you couldn't listen to it again unless you had it somewhere.
Yeah.
And you had to go buy the tape or buy the CD. And back then, I think, as you get older, we went from tapes to CDs, but like every Tuesday, the new kind of releases would come out. But the CDs were like $20, $25. And back then, I'm like, it was expensive as hell.
It was expensive, yeah. They had what was called record stores back in the day. We had like Turtles Records in Roswell, Georgia, where I grew up.
Sam Goody was huge.
Warehouse.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would walk through the woods to go into the shopping center to go buy, the new Van Halen or Warren or whatever. That's crazy. All right, so let's talk about video games. I have this thing here for you. Remember that?
Oh, Game Boys, bro. Shit, yeah, dude.
Look at that.
I still, I got a kid that I work with. He fixes all this old shit.
Yeah.
And he's what is he, 17? He's always looking for money. He was like, hey, I got a Nintendo. I can fix. Do you want it? I'm like, sure, bro.
Yeah.
I forget what he told me. What did I buy for $50? It was super cheap. But I have a Nintendo now, an original one, and I have Tetris, and I have Mario Brothers, Duck Hunt, and Ninja Turtles.
Okay. So, yeah, you remember Frogger, Pitfall, Asteroids, Pong was one of the first?
Yeah, I had a neighbor. I grew up in an apartment complex, and the neighbor across the street had Atari.
Yeah.
And so, like, the first system I had was Nintendo.
Okay.
Like the original.
I had Atari.
But he had Atari.
Yeah.
And so we play that.
I think Pong was, from what I'm reading in my venture capital book, because I'm now a tech company owner. I think Pong was like one of the first ones ever that they, had made into a video game that actually went into people's homes.
No, I think it is. It might be the original.
Yeah, actually. I think so. If you look at the Game Boy here, and people that see on film, so you would slide these little compartments in here, into the back, and I have like Tetris here, and I mean, Tetris was like one of those games that was more like a brain activity.
I still play it.
Do you?
Yeah, I have it. I bought it for the Nintendo, and it's my favorite. Because it's just like it's a puzzle.
Yeah,
I like to, for whatever reason, like
I can see that with you. Yeah,
yeah, I dig it.
That's funny. Okay, how the hell are we still alive? Okay, and what I mean by that is, I'm just going to name off some foods, and we can wrap up on we can wrap on this sort of stuff. So, chicken McNuggets.
Oh, dude,
did you scarf those or what?
What year was it? I think it was like seventh. It was in seventh grade. They had a deal where it was like a 20 pack of chicken McNuggets for like $5 or something. And so my old man would pick me up from like the YMCA to take me to basketball practice with another buddy, and we would always stop at McDonald's and get a 20 piece, and I would eat 10 and he would eat 10 with all the barbecue sauce and ketchup. And he always drinks real soda.
Totally.
Like, yeah, there's years where I probably didn't eat like hardly any fucking real food. You know what I'm saying? Like, my breakfast as a kid, and no knock against my parents, I'd be like, especially when you're old enough to, like, where I live, you'd go at the bus stop. You walk your ass outside, you sit at the bus stop, freeze your ass off, and you go. And I would grab like a Mountain Dew and a pack of Pop-Tarts. And that's how I start my day.
So the McGuires were my childhood friends. They lived 2 doors down from me, and they were all like spread out in ages. So Brian's like 3 years older than me, Chris is 2, and Steve and I are about the same age, and we were all just like best friends. But the thing that Steve and I did together was play video games. So we would stay up until 3 a.m. playing Zelda, and
oh yeah,
the thing that was fun about it is that we had this thing called the dog trail. It was in the woods. You'd walk through the dog trail, and then out of the dog trail, all of a sudden you're like, there's this thing called, Food Giant, I think it was. It was a local grocery store there, and we'd go into the grocery store, and if I had any, ounce of money from mowing lawns and stuff like that, I would buy Nerds, Snickers, Jolt Cola. I mean,
I remember Jolt.
Yeah, we would just buy like a ton of just bad food, and we would sit there and play Zelda for hours on end just eating junk food. How I still have teeth, I have no idea.
I think it's why I have the problems I have today. This is shit that we ate shit all day, dude. It was again, it's a different era, different time. Like white bread, like Wonder Bread was like what we'd have, or even if you had wheat bread, it was still bullshit anyway. Yeah, it wasn't real. I do think the meat and stuff you ate was probably better. The dairy products were probably better, but dude, I'm at home making Kraft macaroni and cheese, or Tombstone pizzas, or you name it, but it's all
Hostess apple pie with the fillings. Did you eat those?
Yeah, I like those. Oatmeal cream pies, Swiss cake rolls. Those were all the jam. Gushers, Fruit by the Foot, Sharks, you name it, dude. Like, Dunkaroos, Teddy Grahams, every shit cereal, you could name for sure. It was never, again, it wasn't every single meal every day, but it was a huge part of what we would do.
Or the Keebler Elves, they'd have those cookies where they'd have like the chocolate that would go over the shortbread.
And they would have the ones where it's like a sandwich. So it's like the elf chocolate and then the elf again.
Yeah.
Dude, when you say like, I tell people like I could be 400 pounds easily. And I still like in my brain, I know that stuff is shit and I'm sure it tastes like shit now, but I still in my head like romanticize like how fucking awesome that was.
It was so good. Oh my God. And to think that, you know, as kids, we were able to process all that stuff. And like, where has junk food gone now in this day and age? It's like, it's so much different.
Well, I think like, here's how I look at it. If you go eras, right, and this is what I do for a living, go back to your grandpa and then look at your dad and then look at you and then look at the next generation. Culturally, what we did with those things, like my dad, like maybe went to McDonald's maybe once a month with the family, and it was a treat to go.
Right.
And it was a big deal. And the portion sizes were significantly smaller.
Yeah.
There wasn't upsells and downsells. You couldn't supersize or add things. It just, you got what you fucking got, and it was limited. And if you look back to your grandpa, he probably never did that because it really didn't exist. And if you look at people, we do self-regulate eating way better with real food. Now you look at this generation, and this is not an old head just knocking people, but it's culturally become normal. We go to the drive-thru 3 times a week, 4 times a week. Some people eat this shit multiple times a day.
Yeah.
And it's just, devoid of nutrients, and it's so much more calorie dense. And so I think people are not as active. It's just reality overall. Kids, you know, I don't know the world today. I don't have, you know, a 6-year-old kid, but I would just leave the house and fucking go and play all day. I didn't have screens. I didn't have an iPad, didn't have an iPhone. So they're moving less, and we're eating more of these things more frequently than we ever used to. Like going to pizza, like even for me as a kid, we had this thing called Book It. You could read a book, and I would lie and say I read a book. And I never read a fucking book in my life. You get this little certificate that says, hey, you read a book, you get a free personal pan pizza from Pizza Hut. And I'm like, fuck yeah, dude, I want the pizza. So you go and you get your little pan pizza, but that's the only time we would go there. My family wasn't like ordering pizza every week or every month. And so that's the difference. I'm just keeping it real, you guys.
Never read a book in my life.
I swear to God, like I have listened to 500 Audible books. I have never read a single book in my life cover to cover, word for word. There's no way.
I'm so glad you and I are business partners.
No way.
Perfect. Okay, a few other things for rapid fire questions. Did you ever hear one of these Casio Mini Pocket calculator?
I think ours are like the little Texas Instrument bullshit.
Is that crazy?
That's gnarly too.
And then one other thing. This was the end all be all. This was how I was tracked. Look at that.
Oh, dude, I had a pager.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine was like a blue. You remember like they always make everything like see-through?
Yeah.
So it'd be like a kind of clear blue see-through. And they make computers like that too. Yeah, I had a pager. I think that was before my cell phone.
Yeah.
Because that was the thing. I actually had my own, eventually I got my own phone number, like at my house.
Okay.
And my own answer machine.
You still remember your phone number?
Mine, which is crazy. I don't, not my personal one, my best friend's phone number, 454-3942.
Okay. I
would call his house all the time, like, hey, is Connor there? You know, and you have to wait for their mom and dad to pick up the phone. My dad's phone number, 454-6383. My mom's 454... Is it 3942? I'm trying to remember.
Because they didn't have area codes back then.
No.
Yeah.
You wouldn't call anybody else's.
Right.
Because it costs money.
Right.
So you're not, again, for people listening, like, I grew up we're savages, bro. I grew up in an era where we would answer the phone and not know who's calling you.
Right.
None of you motherfuckers are doing that. None of you are doing. You look at your phone, you're like, oh, I don't want to answer it, or oh, it's potential spam. Like we would just answer, not know who the hell was on the line, and be like,
that's so true.
Pray we know, dude.
It's so true. Yeah, my pager number was 232-6565. I always will remember that. I think I'm going to reactivate this thing. That'd be kind of cool.
But think about that. Like I can barely remember my wife's cell phone number, and I only know because if I felt like, who's your emergency contact?
Yes.
And so now I can pull it out if I have to.
Yeah.
But my best friend's phone number from when I'm 7 years old, still remembered to this day. Wild.
When you that is wild. When you sign up for stuff online, do you put your wife's phone number and her email address in so you don't get spammed, and then she gets a bunch of spam and she's like, "What are you doing?"
I mean, I have done it before. Yes.
Guilty. My wife yelled at me the other day. All right, I got some rapid fires. Yeah, you're right. We could talk about this all day, so we'll have to pick this up. But first, McDonald's or Burger King?
As a kid, McDonald's for sure.
Okay. Burger King did have those really good chicken sandwiches, though. I made those as a kid.
Burger King, the chicken is better.
Yeah.
For sure. The McDonald's fries are better.
Yeah.
I do both, though. Like the Whoppers I could do.
Yeah.
God, it was all just shit. But I ate McDonald's more for sure. I think it was cheaper, too.
Probably. Burger King was like, I don't know, a connoisseur sort of.
A little fancier.
Yeah.
Step up.
Yeah. And then Wendy's came out and it was all over.
Oh, dude, that's a whole different.
Culture Club or The Cure?
Cure?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you play... what did you like better? Going outside and playing war and building forts or whatever the hell you did, or video games?
It's always outside. Like we would build the forts and do shit. But dude, we would just play sports.
Yeah.
Street football, street basketball, you name it. Just go to hit baseballs. Like we would just be outside. I love video games too, but only was like after the day was over. Like unless it was like 0 degrees and you were stuck. But even that, my family just say drop you off at the YMCA. Sit here all day.
Well, what about look, dude? The sports when we were kids. Holy shit! Like the football games, the tackle football out in the big green belts. All the kids would show up. I mean, literally no rules. You would come back bloodied, and I mean there was none of this. It was the best.
It was great, dude. And first of all, I never would wear a helmet riding a bike.
No.
Like, out of your fucking mind. Like 0% chance, dude. Like never, no shin guards, armpit, none of that stuff, dude. Like we were jumping curbs, doing shit. I ate shit a million times, dude.
I have scars from it. Yeah.
We would play full on tackle on everything.
Everything.
And no questions asked.
Oh, it's a blast. God, I want to go do it this Thanksgiving. Now my Thanksgiving activity is brutalizing myself with you in the gym in the morning for that 1,000 rep thing.
Dangerous enough.
It's dangerous enough. Old man stuff. All right. Did you have a dinner bell or did you just get your ass home?
We would just go. Honestly, like my family's a little bit different. My parents were divorced, so it's like this dual kind of household. And my parents worked. So a lot of times I would just go to my best friend's house and eat dinner. But it would be like whenever it gets like dark enough, like get your ass home. Yeah. Just for the fear of just getting your ass beat, basically.
Totally.
Yeah. Deterred a lot of things of me not doing.
Did you have any creepy neighbors?
Yeah, like I live in this apartment complex, and you get some different walks of life. And honestly, we used to do our laundry just down the street. This place called Duds and Suds, and like, I'll never. Dude, when I tell people like, "Oh man, you live in Scottsdale," I'm like, "Well, I do now, bro." But this was not always my reality. At a public laundromat, you get you get a good mix. Oh, it's like the carnival.
Come here, little boy.
Yeah, you kind of get everybody. Right. But I was like, like when you see kids, I always joke like that guy's Monica, who's worked for me for almost 10 years. Nicest kids ever. I always said like her oldest son now, he's like 16. I go, but when he was young, he was just so nice. I'm like, he's the type of kid who would get into a van. Yeah. And I'd have been 8 and been like, fuck you, bro. Right. Like I was already like, no, I don't trust anybody.
Not doing it. Yeah. Oh, what was your first car?
I had a 1990 Chevy Corsica. It was a 4-door maroon. I think it was like a 2.3 liter, complete piece of shit. A really quick story. I remember one time the catalytic converter had broke off and got stuck in the exhaust. So when you would push the gas, like no power would happen and it would just die. So you could turn on and it could coast. And this happened on Highway 61. And so I had to coast it to my house probably about 1.5 miles. And my dad he's nicer now, but he was Clint Eastwood from Gran Torino. He's just a, very angry, middle-aged man. And I remember it died and he's like, you got to take it to Dee's Muffler to get it fixed. I'm like, cool, let's tow it over there. He's like, no, we're not towing it, bro. He's like, you're going to wake your ass up tomorrow and you're going to coast it all the way there. So I'm like driving on like fucking off the highway roads, literally at an idle's pace. What is that, 3 miles an hour? Yeah. And half the time I would just get out with the door open and run with it to push to get it faster. Oh my God. And probably 1.5 hours later I get it to Dee's Muffler, and that's how we got it fixed eventually, because my dad didn't want to pay the $40 or whatever to actually tow it, and that was my first vehicle.
How many kids have you pushed?
Dude, it's just not. And again, there's not power or anything. No, everything is crank. Everything.
Yeah, you're turning that wheel like with your life depended on it.
I didn't have a CD player. I had a tape player, so I could put a tape in connected to a string to my Discman to play CDs that would skip if I wanted to.
Oh God, that's right. All right, did you walk to school or take the bus?
When elementary school, we could walk, and then after that, like, it's too far. We took the bus.
Yeah.
So in the Minnesota, you just sit at the bus stop and freeze your ass off. And a lot of times they would cancel school, not because of just snow, but just because it was so cold.
Yeah.
If the kids would sit outside for too long, they'd just die.
Bus driver ever give you candy?
The bus, no, but like it was way more freer back then. Like you would have, like remember like on I don't know how kids do it now, like Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Like everybody had to get some shit.
Yeah.
So you would always like share stuff, and like you could kind of make homemade shit.
Yeah.
Now I don't think they can do that.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think they can give anything away anymore. Yeah, because it's just gotten weird, right?
Well, it's like, again, I'm not trying to get serious, but like when I'm a kid, like there isn't like fentanyl. Like it's not a thing.
Yeah.
Like you could do drugs, right?
Yeah.
And like you would go do drugs and you'd be cool. And now it's like you do drugs, like you might just die.
You might just die. Yeah.
Weird.
Well, Miss Bentley was my bus driver. She had a big like beehive bouffant or whatever, and she would hand us butterscotch candies and
Like the, not Werther's Originals, but like similar.
similar to that. Yeah.
I remember that's like old people candy.
They were really good.
Yeah. I would eat those. Yeah, they're not bad.
It was good. Placated us for a while. You already told me your first 3 cassettes. That was one of my questions. And then, did you ever fly when they were smoking on airplanes?
No, I didn't fly until I was playing sports. Probably like 13.
Okay.
Was the first time I flew. But I remember cigarette vending machines.
Okay.
So I remember you could go to like, we had this place called Rocco's Pizza. It's
Yeah.
still there. It would fold in Scottsdale in a day. The pizza's great, but it's ghetto as fuck. And you walk in and like they would have a vending machine where you could just put money in and you get cigarettes out.
Yeah.
Same thing at the laundromat. They had those. But when I'm a kid, you could buy candy cigarettes too. The ones that you could eat and the ones that would
Yeah.
fake smoke.
Yeah.
You could buy fake chewing tobacco, Big League Chew, the jerky snuff, all that stuff.
Loved all that.
And again, like my old man smoked for probably 30 years. So like I'm just watching, TV and my dad just puffing heaters.
Yeah.
Like all day.
Yeah.
Pick me up, from school, puff and smoke all day long. And then in this era of maybe seatbelts, maybe not. A lot
Yeah.
of times, no. Riding in the back of pickup trucks.
Right.
Like just to.
Not strapped in. Just
No.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm like, if we made it, bro, like these guys will be okay.
100%. And I remember flying on an airplane. They had ashtrays and they had smoking in the last 3 rows. Could you imagine being on what you call the fart tube and now you got cigarette going? Oh, like you can't exclude part of the plane from smelling the smoke.
No, because you could smoke. Yeah, because you could smoke in restaurants. They'd have like
Yeah.
the smoking section and not. And I do remember in the vehicles they would have ashtrays in each vehicle, like in the doors and in the center console.
God. All right, last question, and more of a hypothetical sort of, I don't know. Would you, if you could, would you go back or would you stay where you're at now?
And do it over, or
Not do it over, but just go back and live your years out in the 80s, 90s. Or are you happy with kind of where things have gone now with the technology and being able to be more efficient and do all that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because I think my life is awesome.
Yeah.
And the medical technology and what we know, I wouldn't want to go back to that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
how if you wear contacts, if you've had LASIK done, if you need dental work, if you have to go to the hospital, like all of the things we know about nutrition, supplementation, I do think if you're willing to learn, has made life way fucking better.
Yeah.
I do like, the thing I would say is different is I would like the freedom I think that we had back then to do whatever the fuck. Not that you don't have it in America, but it is different.
Yeah.
People were not so easily offended. You could say things, you could be a little bit more wild, and it was just like, fuck it. So that part I miss. But if I had to pick one, I'm like, for me, just because of what I do for a living, being able to, I would not be this person without the technology. And people would not know me, which I don't really give a shit about, but I wouldn't have the money, and that I wouldn't care about. So for sure.
Well, if you look at the aspect of how easy it is to get a hold of everybody now, how easy it is to put your life out there if you want to, or even if you don't want to, what people can see. People want to get quick responses. They want immediate responses. They want instant gratification. They want all of this stuff. So for me, I think I would go back to that time to be able to just kind of really live and be in the moment more, as opposed to being in the response.
Yeah, it's like it's like if you do use social media now, like if you can put the guardrails on, you can kind of have the best of both worlds.
Right.
Because you remember what it was like, but still, back then, people didn't expect you to respond within an hour or 2 hours. There was no expectation. For most people, if you're an entrepreneur, it's probably different, even back then. But when you left work, you left work.
Yeah.
When you're done at 5, they can't get a hold of you.
Exactly.
They have no way to fucking contact you. Like that, I do envy that part.
Yeah.
Because as much as I do put my phone away and I leave it, I know every time I come back to it,
there's something to do.
Yep. And that scale is way bigger than it ever was for most people in 1988.
Because everybody's on the same wavelength now, just like,
constant, 24/7.
Totally. No, well, this is fun. Well, thanks for being a part of the 100th episode.
That's the fucking best.
Do you even use your buttons?
They're not even programmed.
Oh, we get.
I would, but then like people would. I don't know. I would. For me, I would start fucking with them way too much.
I got Jeremy a board. I don't know, a year ago or something like that, maybe.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, and he loves it, but we got some training to do.
You have to program those.
Jeremy's on his 500th podcast or whatever, so this is cool.
560 something.
560, yeah. So promote your podcast. Where's it at?
It's just my name. It's just the Jeremy Scott Fitness podcast. Apple, Spotify, anywhere you guys can listen to it. We talk with everybody. Dave's been on a bunch of times. He'll come on again. So it's a good time.
And what's your new program that you're promoting right now? The mobility one, right?
Yeah, it's just a microdosing mobility. It's for people. Everybody needs to do it. I know people get offended when I say that, but it's like people's like, well, Jeremy, I do enough. You don't. It's like being too rich or too good looking or too strong or having too much sex. These aren't real fucking things. Like you can always do more. And that's what this program is. It's 5 minutes a day, every day. It just helps you guys move better and feel better. And as we're getting older, father time is undefeated. So if you can do this, it'll keep you out of wheelchairs and nursing homes and just make you feel good every day. And that's kind of the whole premise of the program.
Yes. And last but not least, if you guys are taking Athletic Greens, cancel your subscription and sign up under Jeremy's code.
We'll send you free stuff. We'll send you the free samples if you guys want, dude. We'll send free stuff to anywhere in the world. Just reach out to me. I'm happy to send it.
Just got to promote my boy. And so more from us to come for sure. We're going to probably talk about the Mastermind and some of the stuff that we're going to be doing in 2024 as we're doing it. I'll bring him back on here. But a lot of fun today. Thanks, brother.
I appreciate it, man.
All right. Peace out, everybody. Till next time.